Hey, my name is Jordan Schidlowsky. I started Noodlecake Studios back in 2011. We're based out of Saskatchewan. We primarily publish and develop video games. We have about 6 or so titles that we've developed ourselves, and I think close to 60 or 70 titles that we've helped other developers publish. So the gaming industry in Saskatchewan pretty much looks like our studio right now. At a enterprise level, I believe we may be the only studio in Saskatchewan. If you look at a more grassroots kind of view of gaming development in Saskatchewan, there's a lot of stuff happening on the amateur level, a lot of interested individuals exploring the market, whether they're in university or doing stuff as a freelancer in their spare time. But I believe we may be one of the only video game focused corporations, I believe, in the province right now. I think game jams in general, video game development is a creative art form. And it's unique in the fact that it's also a very technically challenging feat as well to build a video game. So game jams are just really cool because you have two really important parts to developing a video game. One is a very technically oriented part, and one is a very creative part. And sometimes it's tough to get those two parts together. So game jams are a really cool way to do that, where we can connect artists and technical guys to basically develop prototypes and have fun. These are, they're just a fun way to get people together and create interesting things, I think, for the most part. I'm not sure what game jams can do in particular for, an industry per se. I think that it does help smaller individuals create, market-ready products or get that first step into the market with product development. I think it's just a good way to encourage people to come together, find each other, and create these these small teams that is kind of an essential key to getting started, basically. I think the most important piece of advice I can give to people looking to get into the industry is just create. Spend the time and have an idea and spend the time building that idea. There's really nothing that you can't accomplish with software or digital development. Most of it's intangible. There's not a lot of barriers to entry to actually build products. So I guess my advice for people looking to get into it is just to spend the time and actually build something. So two of the most important skills required for video game development are, the technical capability to write the software, and then the creative ability to generate the audio and visual around that piece of software. So the two main sets of skills are, programming and being an artist. Those would be the two main. You don't necessarily need to have both. We've seen, certain games that have the technical part, but don't necessarily have a lot of investment in the creative part do well. And we've also seen the inverse, where there's a lot of creative effort and a small technical component. So there's no rule to, which piece is more important, as we've seen both styles do well in the market, but there needs to be a little bit of both. Certainly there's a future for the game industry in Saskatchewan. I think that there's a low requirement to doing video game development. If you kind of look at what's going on in Helsinki, that's a good example of what can happen when there's a strong environment for creating video games. I think the single most important component to being successful in industry is the talent. and the motivation, the drive to create the products. I think that's the only thing you have to stand on. That's the only thing you should be counting on. And I think if you have, the talent behind the creators, that's the most important thing to being successful in this market. This is a market that there's the potential to do very well just on the solidarity of your product. That some other markets you don't have that potential. Need a little bit, but it's not a fundamental piece of your success. The skills you would find or you would need to have would be some degree of technical ability and creativity. University of Saskatchewan obviously has a great computer science department that we hire a lot out of. We've seen the grads out of that program do very well in this market. And the other thing is self-taught. We see a lot of artists, a lot of programmers that are also self-taught that do quite well. But I think for us being in Saskatoon, the comp sci department at the U of S is a good place where we go to find talent. I think there's a few things that kind of put us on the map as we've moved along. But I guess one thing kind of sticks out in my mind that made a big impact for us, and that was back, I believe, in 2012 when there was E3 was going on in Los Angeles, and there was a bus of a bunch of publication editors being bussed around to AAA studios to see their games prior to E3 conference. And this bus of editors, all they did was play our multiplayer Stickman golf game. And that kind of put us on the global map for this game and how fun it was, because we had all these really high, but well-known people playing the game and talking about it. And the reason that happened, the only reason that happened is because the game was fun and it found its way into the right people's hands. And that was a turning point for us. And I guess the takeaway from that is, if you have a rock solid product to stand on, your chances of being successful are always way higher. And we had that game was really fun, and it found its way into the right people's hands, and we kind of took it from there. I mean, we got into game development because the economics behind it. I mean, if you would ask me 5 or 6 years ago, would you be developing video games for a living, I wouldn't even thought about it. But when my co-founder and I wanted to do something in mobile, we looked at the marketplace, and I think at the time 90% of the revenue was from video games. So we got into the market from a purely economical standpoint, and it ended up being a good decision for us. So, and it also turns out building video games is really fun. So it's kind of a really great market to be in.